You were born and raised in Sweden, but you came over to America for college, right? How did you make your way to the U.S.?
I started talking to some different coaches in America about getting the chance to get a full ride scholarship and go over there to, experience the American way of doing things, getting the chance to get my education while continuing my athletic career.
Okay, so you decided to come over here to compete in track and field. That's your sport.
Yes, ma'am.
And where did you go to school?
I went to a school in Texas. At the time, it was called Texas A&M University Commerce.
Mm-hmm. And how was it going for you as an athlete?
At this point, I'm not competing at the same level anymore. I'm still practicing.
How was it when you went to Texas?
Oh, when I went to Texas, okay.
Yeah.
It was going really well. I had a great experience until 2019 at the national championship. But other than that, me as an athlete, I developed and I did really good.
Okay, so you wind up going to the NCAA championships, right? Like, explain what happened there.
So in 2019, I qualified for the national championship in Division II. I was going to run the 400 hurdles. For a few weeks prior to getting to the competition, I heard a lot of rumors going around that I would be competing against a male competitor. So, coming up to the competition, I was trying to focus on myself and making sure that I got ready for the meet. But yeah, showing up at the track competition, one of the competitors that qualified was a man, took a spot from one of the females that would have been able to be at the national championship. So that was a very shocking experience for me. It was not something that I expected.
When did you find out that this man, CC Tefler, posing as a woman, was going to be allowed to compete against you?
Personally, I found out just a few weeks prior to the actual competition.
There was nothing you could do.
Athlete, I tried to focus on myself more, because I can't affect anyone else's results on the track. So I tried to focus on myself to make sure that I am ready for whenever I need to be. But I heard it from teammates and other people in the track community talking about it. So, yeah.
And was there anything you could have done, Minna? Did anybody say, well, you could challenge it? Or were they basically like, you're stuck with this, deal with it?
You're stuck with this, deal with it.
So how did that make you feel? Because you had to realize that, look at this person. And for the listening audience, it is very clearly a man with male size, with male musculature. And indeed, CC Tefler was running and competing in track and field as a man shortly prior to declaring himself a woman and running and competing against you.
Yes.
How close in time was it?
2 years prior, he competed as a man. Yeah.
And his stats were terrible, as I understand it. He was in the mid 300s in terms of where he ranked in track and field at that point as a man.
Yeah, somewhere around there. And then 2 years later, he won the national championship for women. Something that we've been fighting for years.
So he wins the national championship. Here he is running the hurdles. And he's way ahead of everybody. And I understand he won by some 2 seconds, which is, explain that to us, because that's like an eternity. That's the average viewer may be thinking 2 seconds. That's not, but that in track and field, that's an eternity.
Yeah, look at the video. We're not even in the picture when he's crossing the finish line and taking that moment away from, in this situation, me, but in other situations, any woman.
In that race that we just watched, are you the number 2 racer?
Yes, ma'am. That was the year I placed second. at the national championship.
And what event was that?
400-meter hurdles.
Wow. So if he had not been allowed to race, that's you coming up behind him, you would have been the gold medal winner.
Yes, ma'am, I would have.
The first place finisher at the NCAA championships. So this person, I mean, it's really unbelievable. You've got to go and look at the video because you'll see that this is clearly a man. He's 6'2". He was born in Jamaica. Now he goes by Cece. His real name is Craig. Now it's been changed. First competed without success in the men's division at Franklin Pierce University from 16 to 17, and was, again, middling at best. He had terrible numbers. He was in the mid 300s place there until he became suddenly, quote, a woman, and then took first in the 400-meter hurdles in June of 2019. I mean, right, like days later, basically, he decided he's a woman, and there he is. And so when you stood up there as a second place finisher, did you feel like you had to pretend this was fine? Like, what was going through your head there on the podium holding up your trophy?
I tried to pretend like everything was fine. I remember crossing the finish line and my eyes started tearing up and I wiped it really quick to try to hide it from everybody else, because even though I knew a lot of people felt the same way I did, no one spoke up. No one dared to say anything. When we were at the meet, you could feel it in the air that something was different. In the speakers, they called out that we had to show sportsmanship and that we had to be inclusive. And that's something that I hadn't heard at a national championship for the NCAA prior to what was happening at this meet. I felt like I had to be quiet.
Mm-hmm. By the way, I looked it up. He was 390th among the NCAA Division II men, 390th. And then suddenly declares himself a woman, and he's number one. And really loving the joy of defeating all of the women as though it's some sort of a feat for somebody who's been through male puberty and was running as a man 2 years earlier. It's just absurd. So what is it that you would like now? Because we've got the Trump executive order, which is great. The NCAA's interpretation of it and promise to comply with it is less great. You could drive a truck through the holes that they've left, but it's something, I guess. So what would you like to see now?
I want NCAA to give back what was ours. The females that lost their trophies, their recognition, their records, they need to get back whatever they deserved and take it from the men, because men have no place in women's sports. That is why we have two separate categories in sports, because we shouldn't mix that. And I also feel like it's really important that we actually make sure that this don't happen again, so that upcoming females don't have to deal with this issue and they shouldn't have to go through this. Because when you're entering in this in the NCAA, when you're entering and competing there, you expect the NCAA to be there and protect you and support you, because that's what they're supposed to do. What would NCAA be without their athletes? So why wouldn't they want to make sure that we are safe and that we are protected and that we get what we deserve?
So, I mean, it's really amazing when you think about what they did to you. And like all women, I think you were told and probably raised to be nice, worry about this person's feelings. You know, there's such a small percentage. That's what they always say, Minna. Such a small percentage of the country is trans. And, you know, this is just such a niche issue when it comes to athletics, too. Like, you know, where's the harm? That's really what people like Megan Rapinoe, soccer player who's already made her millions, ask. What's the harm? And to that you say what?
It's everything that I fought for since I was 4 years old. I started track and field when I was 4 years old. I knew that I wanted to go somewhere with this. I knew that I wanted to become the best that I could. And that moment in 2019, I had worked for that moment for years. And it got taken away from me. And even though, yeah, you can get a trophy back, you can get the recognition now, but like the moment will be lost forever. So
right.
NCAA has done things to women that will never be able to be completely fixed. But that's why I feel like it's really important that people understand how severe this has been for women in sports.
You don't go out and buy a life jacket when the boat is already sinking, and you don't buy gold when the economy has already collapsed. Clearly, others are heeding this advice as gold hit all-time highs already this year. It's not too late for you too, and you could have Birch Gold help you diversify into physical gold. Birch Gold specializes in helping you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold for no money out of pocket. One recent 5-star review said Birch Gold was, quote, knowledgeable, helpful, non-pressure. Get your free info kit on gold by texting the letters MK to the number 989898. There's no obligation, just useful information. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and countless 5-star reviews, just text MK to 989898 and let the experts at Birch Gold help you secure your future today with gold. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.